thoughts on let's start with the revenue measures which were just disclosed?
Well, as I said to the Minister, I think it's important to indicate the source of the revenue. So we're giving up about 25 billion. He's getting that back in the securitization of some assets, but he hasn't provided any details on that. And I think it's important for transparency for those details to be provided. Obviously, I mean, we have no issue with providing some relief. We have been advocates of providing relief. But where you're going to get the revenues from, the assets that are being securitized and sold, I think the public needs to know what those are. And up to now, we don't. So that's one thing. I think there's a need for transparency there. On the issue of relaxing the procurement rules, we accept that the procurement rules are burdensome. However, it is important that in relaxing those rules, we maintain integrity and accountability. And in that regard, the government needs to publish all contracts that have been awarded over $10 million. Put them on the website. In the former iteration of the Contractor General, he used to publish on a quarterly basis all of those contracts. The Integrity Commission has discontinued that, so I believe if we're going to relax procurement rules so that we can speed up the procurement process, then there needs to be transparency so that the public can know who has been awarded contracts. So I am calling for that in that process.
What are your thoughts on the announcement made to publish the archives of the FinSAC Commission?
Well, I think it's clear that there's no report, right? I mean, we've been calling for a publication of a report. This is something that has occupied a lot of discussion over many, many years. A commission was established, monies were spent on that commission. So it is disappointing that there's no report. That's the first thing I would say. But if there's no reports, then I think it's important to publish what is there, because I believe an accurate account needs to be provided. There are too many people with different perspectives, some with different agendas as to what really took place. It cost the country significantly in terms of the debt that the country had to undertake to cover persons who lost their deposits. So a proper historical account is needed. So what I would say, yes, it's good that there is a publication of archives, but we really should have had a report. And it's really unfortunate that having spent significant sums on a report, that there's no report there.
Well, it was certainly a very broad-reaching presentation. There were no specific measures that were geared towards the deposit-taking institutions. But I think, broadly speaking, the minister was able to cover a number of issues that will have a positive impact on the economy.
The budget seemed to be a response mainly, and he has said it repeatedly, to recent events, namely what has transpired in the election. He has repeatedly said the government listens and they respond. And you would have noticed that some projects that were slated for 25 has been brought forward or were brought forward, such as what concern the purchases of buses, and also with respect to some other items, they were brought forward, the construction of roads, and he deliberately mentioned those items. With respect to where our areas are concerned, with respect to the public sector negotiations and the public sector workers, it was more a continuation. He spoke about trying to bring further relief with respect to the contract workers as something not able to conclude them overnight, as this thing has been long-standing, but the government has made some progress in that regard. I think we were probably hearing to have a more substantial increase with respect to the income tax threshold. That didn't happen, because what many of us would have advocated is that we would have liked it to look at what it was in the time when it was implemented, 2016, 2017, and that whatever adjustment be made would be commensurate with the relief that was granted then, so that the workers would not have lost anything. Well, he did explain that that would have been an expensive venture and had allocated an incremental increase to move it to 1.7 from the 1.5. I think it would require us to do some deeper analysis to see how it affects us overall. But we have some outstanding matters, and I think he was sort of laying the wicket for our negotiations this weekend, in that the government cannot do much more in terms of how the capital expenditure has not moved much from 70 to 80 billion dollars, and how the public sector compensation have moved substantially. But we have outstanding matters that we need to be tended to.
February 2026, I believe, has gone down in history, especially after today's budget, as being an important part of our history. Why? Because it is amazing how the mind is concentrated on how you alleviate poverty and how you help those who are struggling when you get a backsliding like what happened to the JLP on February 26, 2024. And that's my comment.
The budget strikes the right balance, I believe, between continued fiscal prudence and, as the Minister outlined, paying some attention to the micro, even as we keep the macro in focus. And we are talking about keeping the bigger economic picture stable, managing inflation, managing the reserves, building more resilience into the economy, even as we address the day-to-day issues that Jamaicans are faced with. We have to be realistic and understand that at the end of the day, we are humans and the struggle is real. So I think that the minister, he tried hard, and I believe he largely succeeded in striking that right balance.